Check out these vintage Nike Stings. These shoes were actually owned by a former Olympian named Tracy Smith. Tracy competed in the 1968 Olympic Games, and these shoes came out in 1976 and were given to Tracy by Nike. These shoes are very, very innovative. They're actually an updated version of the Pre-Montreal, which was the shoe that Nike made for Steve Prefontaine to wear in the 1976 Montreal Olympics. But the main difference between these Stings and the Pre-Montreals is that these Stings are made for everyday wear, whereas the Pre-Montreals were track spikes. So when we look underneath here at the outsole of the Sting, you'll notice this real cool, funky pattern, but you're also going to notice that there's no track spikes that would screw into here, just like the Pre-Montreal. When we look at the upper of this shoe, the upper's very, very similar to the Pre-Montreal, especially this two-tone right here and the one-piece toe. Now, you'll recall that it was a big deal to Steve Prefontaine to have a shoe with just a one-piece toe. He didn't want there to be a seam here or any sort of stitching. And once Nike was able to achieve that on the Pre-Montreal, they took that same thing and put it onto the Nike Sting. Now, something cool on the Sting that wasn't on the Pre-Montreal is this innovative D-ring lacing system. And it's the first ever of its kind by Nike, and Nike still makes shoes to this day that feature similar lace eyelets right here. Very, very cool that it all got its start right here on the Nike Sting. The colorway really stands out, this sort of rust burnt orange with green and white. Have a look at some of the details though. Look at the swoosh and the stitching right here. It's very, very irregular. Lots of imperfections on some of these really early Nikes because the shoes were handmade and hand stitched, and it was of course using machines but not as mass produced as the shoes that are made today. Like, have a look at this shoe right here and the swoosh on the inside. You'll see when you look at the stitching right here, it's just very, very irregular. And nowadays, when you look at the craftsmanship of Nikes, of course, a lot of people complain about some of the problems with them, but you won't see some of these crazy imperfections in the stitching. Anyway, it's been a real pleasure walking you through these Nike Stings that used to be owned by Tracy Smith. I've got a 2-page letter right here that documents all about Tracy Smith, how I was able to come to ownership of these shoes. This letter will accompany these kicks. They're being listed on eBay, so it's really a great opportunity to get a real piece of Nike history and a shoe that was worn by a former Olympian.